Hello, everybody. We're just going to give a couple, maybe one more minute here. I know some people are jumping on here. We're just following the attendees coming on in. So give it 1 minute and then we'll kick things off. If I had some elevator music, I'd play it. We see a couple people coming in. So just 30 more seconds here. We'll get going, everybody. All right, in the spirit of time, well, I'll let me kick things off, and we'll get going. I know some people will be joining on as we get cranking away here. But welcome everybody to our state and local webinar, Unlock the Future of Your Legacy Applications Utilizing Our Human AI, or HI we call it. Looking forward to a great session. My name is Drew Coleman, I'm a leader here within Presidio with our state and local and higher education organizations. So we've kicked off this webinar. We're starting this webinar really to face the facts around our state and local customers that are challenged with how to modernize legacy applications. It could be apps that were developed 25 years ago by somebody who's no longer there. It could be an app that was developed, with poor code documentation, an app you're looking to incorporate changes around accessibility requirements or new requirements for an application. So we're here today to talk about what human AI can do and what our high solution is helping our state and local customers solve those problems. We're going to give you some examples. We'll go over some use cases. We'll answer any questions. There's a lot to cover. We probably won't cover everything you'll want to cover today in this session. Happy to do a follow-up if anyone wants to see a deeper dive, demos, anything like that. Basic housekeeping here. There is a Q&A button on the bottom of your webinar to ask any questions. Put anything in the chat. We'll address anything we can. The session is being recorded. We'll send this out after for those who want to distribute it or watch it again because it's so great. But without further ado, let me kick it over to Matt here, who's our Matt. I'll let you introduce yourself and then we'll dive in.
All right, Drew, thanks so much. Hey, folks, thanks for joining. So my name is Matt Pothier. I'm a client principal in our digital practice. So I'm focused on developing and designing solutions for our customers around digital transformation, Gen AI, and all those really, really cool things. So thanks for joining today. So we're going to talk about how to accelerate application modernization through the use of our human AI platform. But to kick it off, we're going to kick it off just with a quick interactive survey. So Regan, if you could pop up the question on the screen. So I'm going to ask you guys just to fill out, it's literally one question, and you can see it right there. In a single word, what is the most significant challenge that you guys see in modernizing legacy applications? We'll give about, call it 45 seconds or so for you guys to fill this out, and then we'll take a quick look at the results.
Nobody expected a quiz here, Matt.
There's no wrong or right answer, right? It's not a certification test. All right. All right, you want to flip it to the answers? See what we got here. All right. I see everyone answered. I don't actually see the answers though. That's okay. Does Drew, do you see any answers here?
I don't see the answers, no.
Okay, that's okay. No problem. Well, I'm sure many of you do know that there are a lot of challenges with modernizing legacy applications. So let's kind of dive into those. So, as leaders across the public sector, we know that you guys are faced with a constant set of competing pressures, right? You guys have rising expectations for digital services from your citizens and constituents, right? And these expectations are shaped by their experiences that they see using modern user-friendly platforms. You guys operate under intense fiscal scrutiny from your, on every taxpayer dollar. Constituents are demanding both better services at lower cost. And adding to this, you're dragged down by the operational complexity of your legacy systems. So our goal here is to show you a path to get through this, right? So I see a lot of discussion about transformation, right? I feel the word transformation is sort of overused. So let's try to focus on something that every public sector leader understands, frankly, every leader understands, and that is the real measurable cost of a specific service. So imagine you're a health and human service agency, and you're able to cut the cost of verifying benefits eligibility by 25% by modernizing legacy systems that require manual data across multiple platforms. So you could, for example, leverage cloud-based integrated systems that could pull information from state databases, federal verification services, and third-party sources in seconds, rather than relying on your caseworkers to log into 5 or 6 different systems to get it manually. So what that means is that you can clear your backlogs with existing staff and get critical aid to families in weeks, not months sooner. What if you're a regional transportation authority? Imagine reducing operational costs by 30% through modernizing outdated dispatch and scheduling systems. So you could have a unified platform that could optimize routes based on real-time traffic patterns, ridership data, and vehicle availability. What that does is it maximizes efficiency and allows you to replace that with modern cloud infrastructure that scales with demand. And one more example here, imagine you're a state lottery commission, right? Fraud is a big thing, right? Imagine reducing fraud investigation costs by 35% by replacing fragmented legacy systems with a modern platform. So instead of investigators manually compiling data from multiple databases and sales systems and things like that, you could leverage automated analytics, right, to actually cross-reference patterns across all those systems and to flag, potential fraud in real time. So what that does is it allows your team to then focus on the verified threats, while the modern APIs eliminate the costly process of the routine compliance checks, if you will, right? So again, the idea here is how can we modernize your applications, not for the sake of just going to the latest and greatest technology, but really turning your largest operational cost centers into models of efficiency. So how is this possible, right? So we're going to go with the obligatory kitchen remodeling analogy here. So just as you would hire an expert remodeler with the right set of tools to remodel your kitchen, you'd want to do the same when it comes to remodeling your applications. So you'd want to work with the right team, with the right set of tools to get the job done efficiently, right? So think of us, Presidio, as expert remodelers for your legacy applications. So we have a proven methodology called human AI, or HAI, that works to accelerate the process. So let's dive into it a little bit. So again, the key here is that we, Presidio, have a whole team of public sector focused expert architects. And these architects are amplified by a set of over 20 proprietary human AI agents. These agents are our force multipliers. They basically automate the laborious work of untangling legacy code, identifying technical debt, mapping dependencies, all these things that architects and engineers would be doing. That's accelerated through the use of these agents. What that does is this leads to faster de-risk modernization. All right, so what does it mean? So faster, obviously, means doing things in less time, right? So instead of spending months or years rebuilding systems from scratch, we use tools that accelerate that. So, these agents can analyze, millions of lines of code in minutes. They can identify patterns. They can generate initial modern code, right? All these things that would have taken a long time for humans to do can now be done by AI agents. What that does is it allows the architect to focus on higher level strategic decisions and that complex decision making rather than manual analysis. So de-risk, what do we mean by that? So these AI agents, because they can analyze such vast amounts of code early on, we can identify problems early on before the actual migration or app mod begins, right? Hidden dependencies, deprecated APIs, potential security issues, right? All these things that would be detected by humans now are detected early on thanks to these agents. And then, of course, reduced human error, right? Humans certainly make mistakes, right? And these agents can actually help to accelerate the accuracy of this by eliminating, most, if not all, human error in these routine tasks, all while allowing the architects to focus on the strategic decisions. One thing to note here is that our human AI offering here, it's a service. It's not a software that you guys have to buy. It's not a SaaS platform. You benefit from the speed and insight of our tools in conjunction with our team members. So at the end of the day, you're paying for, going back to the kitchen analogy, you're paying for the finalized modern kitchen, not the actual tools that were used to renovate it. That said, I would like to open up the toolbox a little bit and show you what's sort of under the covers here. So I mentioned before that we have about 20 plus human AI agents. So just want to, I'm not going to go too deep here. Like Drew said, I'm happy to do a deeper demo at a later point. That would be awesome. But I wanted to give you guys a flavor of what these agents are all about. So if you think about it, when you're looking to modernize an application, at the end of the day, you want to get from a legacy code base to a modernized code base. And there would be a series of tasks that that developers and engineers would be doing, right? What we've done is we've created a whole bank of agents that we can orchestrate in ways that makes the most sense for the final and for whatever the desirable result is, right? What we do is we effectively orchestrate these agents in a way that makes the most sense. So let's take, for example, you have a legacy application and you don't really know you don't really know all the features that it does. There might not be documentation, right? We can deploy our holistic analyzer agent, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the webinar, what that actually means. There might be cases where we just want to be able to extract the features from the code base, right? That would take time. These agents help to accelerate that delivery. It's important to note that these aren't just generic agents. They will actually be trained on your code base and your patterns and your workflows to proactively resolve these issues and accelerate delivery. It ensures that every fix is traceable and compliant and context aware. That's a big component of this whole solution that humans alone can't achieve. All right. Now, the whole concept of app modernization can take upon many forms. Every customer, every company, every person has a different definition and a different need on how to go about app mod. So just wanted to share with you a couple of use cases that we've seen from our customers on how they go down this journey. So one example is a re-architecture of the application. So for example, we had one customer, the app was running on-prem, was not using cloud native services. They wanted to get to the cloud, right? So how to accelerate that? Well, we have agents that can assist in the review of the code and identify particular patterns in the code that could translate very, very well to a cloud native service, whether it's be like a queuing pattern or something, or storage, or a managed database service, things like that that could easily be pulled out into a cloud native service. We had one customer that just wanted to focus on a single feature to modernize, not tackle the whole thing. But how do we go about identifying what a good candidate is? So we were able to identify what the features were and pick a specific business function to convert to a microservice architecture. Another example is rebuilding user experiences. So perhaps you want to retain the backend, but just modernize the front end. We have custom purpose-built UI and UX agents, and they're really, really cool, that can go and actually modernize the UX, the front end. I have a whole separate demo on that I'm happy to share with you at a later point. But it's really, really powerful, allows you to get really kind of a quick win, increase your user experience, and all while retaining the backend. We see a lot of cases where these legacy systems, they're running like a Java 6 or something, or or Angular 1, or some outdated framework, outdated language, or what have you, and you're looking to upgrade it. That is actually kind of challenging. But what our agents can do is they can help identify where this exists and the necessary steps that it will take to modernize to a new framework. And then finally, I mentioned tech debt. Kind of relates to the previous one, but tech debt takes upon many forms. As I mentioned before, it could be spaghetti code, a lot of duplicate code. It could be a lack of documentation. Some of these apps have been around for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and there's just been a lot of tech debt that's been built up. Our agents are able to help out with that. In fact, we actually have a series of experts, and these are actually effectively a banks of config files that are custom written for certain technologies, right? And we can use those to accelerate the agentic exploration and the identification of the tech debt. All right. I wanted to pivot over and share with you an example of a specific use case that we're working on for one of our largest state government clients. They're actually they're replatforming their Medicaid eligibility system. They're moving it from a legacy mainframe-based system over at AWS. And what happened is this effort was actually halted in favor of a more comprehensive app mod effort, right? But what happened is there was actually a gap in knowledge. There was a gap that existed between the current documentation and what was actually needed to modernize the application. So they partnered with us to do a POC that was really aimed at evaluating the feasibility of using Hive to effectively reverse engineer the business requirements and documentation from the existing code base. The POC was a resounding success, and these agents actually exceeded what was expected in terms of quality and completeness and overall time to completion. And now we're actually moving on to do the analysis across their entire application beyond just the POC. What it basically looked like is they had a series of modules. It was actually written in a language called Natural. Maybe some of you have heard of it. It's kind of like COBOL. And there were 6,000 modules that they actually have in this particular application. And again, through our human AI solution here, we were able to come out with a whole set of business requirements documents, schemas, sequence diagrams, process flows, really, really cool stuff that was really beneficial in bringing to light what the application was doing and the necessary components that would have to be considered when looking to execute on the app modernization technical efforts. Now, the client actually did an analysis of how long it would take to do this, how much it would cost, and how much could actually realistically get done with Presidio and AI. And what they found is that just tackling 1,000 of the 6,000, so 1/6 of the modules, would take about 24 months of time to do, about $4 million in cost. And like I mentioned, it would only tackle about 1/6 of the modules, leaving about 5,000 behind. Using Presidio's HAI assistance, we're able to get that done in about 3 to 6 months at a fraction of the cost, say 300K there, and obviously getting all 6,000 done, not just 1,000, right? So the theme being here, modernize faster at a lower cost, you can modernize more of the portfolio. Again, this was, and we're seeing this a lot in some of our other state and local government customers as well, who are really looking to follow this pattern to get a good understanding of what their application, of all the different features and modules and flows within their application, which basically empowers them to go ahead and build out a roadmap, if you will. One thing to note here, kind of a cheesy graphic, I know, but it's important because this is not about handing your critical systems over to a black box, right? Our AI tooling provides the power, but our public sector architects provide the wisdom, right? So we help to guide you through and ensure that the final solution is secure, compliant, and aligned with your agency's mission, right? It's really the best of both worlds. So how do we get started? So we really want this path to be straightforward and low risk for you. So it really starts with a simple, no obligation exploratory call between your tech leaders and our architects to identify a potential application or a challenge. We've seen, we usually like to start small, right? We don't want to boil the ocean by any means. It could be an application. It could be a module within an application. We usually, again, like to start perhaps, usually with a non-critical application as well, just so we can make sure that we're proving out the value of our services and building from there. It's the standard crawl, walk, run approach, which we've all heard a million times. After the exploratory call, we will move on to the holistic code analysis. Again, this was actually one of the agents that I mentioned before. It's a very, very powerful agent that we actually, it's important to note that we work to customize these agents as well. They're not just a button that you click and it magically runs, right? That's where the expertise comes into play. We are able to, and we should, and we do, make sure that we customize these agents to meet your needs. In the case of the example that I just showed you, we did make some customizations to the agents to specifically address the modules that we were getting that were written in natural, right? Because the agents out of the box, work great, but we were able to make them even better by adding some customization to get the desired end results. So after that phase, it really leads to a roadmap, and this is a tangible roadmap with an actionable plan that can help you to make informed decisions. Whether you go with us or not, it arms you with the data that you guys will need to make the decisions on how to go about your app modernization journey. So we would love to work with you. If this sounds like something that you guys would be interested in, feel free to contact myself. My email is on the screen here, or Drew, and we would love to have a discussion with you to see how we can help you guys out. That wraps up my presentation. We have a full hour here, so we do want to open up to any questions that you guys may have. But thank you very much, and we'll open up for Q&A.
Yeah, appreciate it. If there's any questions, you can throw them in the Q&A panel. That's there now, and there's a couple ones. We will be distributing this deck out. We'll distribute the recording as well. Matt, I guess, is there anything that you see or you get asked, before anyone asks any other questions, that are common themes around high modernize?
Yeah. So we get a lot of questions, and we do see some themes as well, right? One question we get is, really, that customers have undergone modernization projects before. So how does our high approach really affect the timeline and the size of the team involved and even the cost, right? So, what we've seen is from a cost perspective, we've seen that in year one, teams can save about 25 to 40% in cost savings. Now, how is that possible? Well, by number one, by shrinking the overall timeline to get it done. We did some analysis here, and we had this particular monolithic application, and the traditional way would have taken about 6 months to convert it to an API-driven approach. To get those APIs working using High took only 3 to 4 weeks. So it's about a 70% time savings. With respect to the impact on the size of the team, I think the important thing to note here is that we're not necessarily shrinking people, we're shifting the roles of people, meaning that it might have taken, call it 100% of human effort to actually review and to go through this laborious analysis. We estimate now it's about 20 to 30% of that SME intervention, which opens up the 70% of the time for the SMEs to focus on higher value, thinking. So
Yeah.
again, that's and I do see some questions coming in the chat as well. So I think we can probably pivot over to that. So that's one question that we get a lot.
Yeah, why
Let's see.
that one, Matt? The first one is pretty interesting. We have developers leave and nobody can make changes to certain apps. If we went with you all to modernize it, then what happens in 10 years when this is aging out? Are you teaching us how to fish and manage the new app after 10 years, right? Once we hand it off to them and yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
question.
good question. So we can take upon many models here. We have some clients who are actually engaging with us to learn how to use these agents, if you will. Again, it does start with the discovery process to figure out exactly what the need is. We do offer a whole managed services offering as well to help manage the app. It really depends. Again, we can work with you on that. We have some customers who give us the code base, and we can go ahead and modernize it. We have some customers who like more of a hand-holding approach, and that works as well. So
I think it's probably safe too, Matt, like the documentation agents and stuff that we have, like that'll help for future code base modernization or changes, right?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
And I think some of the other things to note too, talking about that use case prior, I mean, that was a proven out POC, right? That was actually it wasn't just a number or a time frame, consolidating it down to 3 to 6 months. We actually proved that out using the agents and actually testing it against code and rerunning it through the AI agents that accelerators that were developed with our expertise involved as well. So I think that was interesting. There's another question out here: is this scale to small projects? Other end of the spectrum from the Medicare case, is it cost effective to simplify a project projected to be 1 person 3 weeks?
Yeah. So on this one, so yeah, if it can scale to any size. If the project, if it is a very, very small app, the honest answer is not always, right? I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's not always the best solution, right? If it is a very, very small app, these agents can help out for sure, but it might not necessarily be the best option, because these agents really help when we get to a level of scale. But again, I'd love to sit down with you and learn a little bit more about the specific app, if that's something you'd be interested in.
Yeah, and I'm also going to answer it. So one more thing there is you could also use that small app as a way for you to do a POC with us.
POC, yeah.
A great starting point. So we've seen both ends of the spectrum. Customers starting with a big app and starting to do strangler patterns with us with small modules because they want to try and give it a try. So yeah, all of those things work. But there are customers who've started the journey and doing a full-fledged modernization as well. So yeah.
Yep.
The other question, Matt, I think we see a lot, maybe address this, I don't know, is around version or code base. I know you mentioned natural. I mean, what are some of the more common, what are some of the things we see out there that really stand out to, for high modernize, and what are some
Yeah.
of the things that maybe don't, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, sure. So again, the sweet spot is in, I mean, from a language perspective, the sweet spot is in the Java, .NET worlds. If I had to like rank them, Java and .NET, absolutely. And that is where the sweet spot is, if you will. That said, though, we have done work using for VB6 for JavaScript. Now seeing natural in the mix here, right? The thing is that the remember that it's a combination of our human expertise with these agents, and these agents and the models behind these agents have been trained on vast amount of data, and out of the box they do work. They can interpret natural, they can interpret Fortran, right? The flip side of it is that the human expertise is so critical in this process to validate the outputs. Oftentimes, in the case of a legacy programming language like a natural, we do try to partner with someone on the client side who might have an in-depth knowledge of if it's an obscure, but if it's a lesser common language, if you will. But Java, .NET, and VBScript are definitely the sweet spots.
And then can you talk a little bit too, Matt, around front end versus back end application, things that iModernize is doing or can do, right? And I don't know if you touch on that at all.
Yeah, no, good question. Yep. So it can do both. So again, usually what we do, again, it depends. We can do both. So oftentimes we can take a legacy application and convert it to a microservices API-driven architecture, right? That's a very common path. We can also, on the UX front, we have agents that can actually go and effectively scrape a website, and it is able to build a contextual document of all the user interactions of the legacy site from a UX perspective. And then you can actually feed it in. If you, for example, have a particular design system that you use, we can feed that into the agent, and it will generate the modernized front end in alignment with your design system. And it will also it can automatically integrate it with the modernized APIs that were developed from the back end phase.
And then things around, I mean, a lot of our state customers are, they have accessibility requirements, right? And they have applications that, were built along before these accessibility requirements were enacted or initiated, and, how to, expedite or speed up process to get those requirements built into some of these apps. You touch on that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's like, like the old 508 compliance, things of that sort, or even actual domain specific, compliance standards as well. What's great about this is that you can actually feed it when you run these agents. You can actually tie it to a knowledge base, so you can actually have a whole set of compliance standards that are fed into the models to make sure that what the models are coming back with, does meet the needs. That is in alignment with the standards. That said, though, that does stress the importance still of having our domain experts who understand that landscape to validate what is actually coming back.
Right. That's great. Vidya, any other questions out there? Vidya, I don't have the Q&A popped up, or any common themes that you're seeing or hearing?
Yeah. So one thing that customers generally ask us is what's our involvement in a project like this, right? So for example, if you're running through a holistic analyzer, um, we definitely using AI. We have our experts like Mark spoke about, Matt spoke about, but we also need what level of expertise do we need from customers, right? And the answer is definitely some level of expertise coming from the domain experts who are running the business from the state and local governments would be required. But if we have documentation, process flows, workflows, etc., we can absolutely ingest them as knowledge sources. but a certain level of expertise during holistic analysis is required, right? So we've seen that pretty much asked all the time. So during that phase is when we would need your expertise. But once we go into developing the modern architecture into code base, we can pretty much go ahead and take care of it using our developer agents and other agents. But in the initial phases, yes, the answer is yes. Matt, do you have a percentage in terms of, what percentage we expect customers in the example that you shared? Can't remember.
Yeah, I mean about 25%. About, I'd say it's usually about a day or two a week, especially early on. A lot again, and that was really due to the nature of this particular engagement, given that it was natural. If it's a language like Java or .NET, less so, because we have a vast more a larger talent pool within Presidio of Java and .NET experts, meaning that less would be required. But if I had to put a number on it, about 25%.
Perfect. Thanks. There's one more question that usually customers ask is around how secure it is for us to expose, your code to us while we go through this process, right? And definitely these agents will be run in your cloud tenant or in your, data center infrastructure. So we don't have to bring the code into our environment to run anything in our environment, right? We can keep everything in your environment and run it in your environment, in your own tenant, so nothing gets exposed outside of your tenant, right? Again, that's pretty secure. We don't give you the agent pretty per se, but we run our agents in our environment to gather the data, to understand the architecture, the as-is functionality, etc. And also all the developer agents and all the other agents will be run in your environment to develop that code, if that makes you comfortable there. We can go ahead and use your LLM keys in order to do that. But if you want us to bring in an LLM keys and charge it back to you, that's a model as well. So both those models are applicable. It's based on, again, size of the code, the complexity of the code, how much of tokens, etc. We can certainly sit down with your teams and determine the sizing and what the tokens might look like, so that you can prepare yourself in terms of budgeting exercises, etc. Right? So that's something I want to be transparent there.
Point.
Yep. Yep.
Great. Well, I don't see any other questions out there. I mean, again, we'll distribute this back out to the team. Matt, Vidya, anything else on your end, or we can wrap up and get people back on their day?
Yeah, no, there's nothing else from my side, but thank you all for joining, and hopefully we'll be chatting again soon.
Yeah, appreciate everybody. Thanks for attending, and we will talk soon. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.